welcome back to Economic Application Class 10 ICSE 2021. In the last class, I was discussing about movement and shift of the demand curve. I explained to you what happens in movement along the demand curve, and I am supposed to explain the shift in the demand curve. I would like to revise what I taught in the last class regarding movement. So, movement and shift of demand curve. Movement means along the same demand curve. The demand curve does not shift, does not move. So, movement here are two parts: extension of demand and contraction of demand. Extension, the word extension can be also written as expansion. Expansion or extension means actually the quantity demanded has to increase. Expansion, increase in quantity demanded. Contraction, decrease in quantity demanded. Remember, you should write decrease or increase in quantity demanded, not increase and decrease in demand. Increase and decrease in demand should be written only in the topic shift. So here what happens? Once you know that there is increase in the quantity demanded for extension, then obviously when there is increase in the quantity demanded, then the price should fall. So we start with extension of demand. When the price falls, all the other factors remain constant, ceteris paribus. That means to say, the income of the consumer, the price of related goods, consumer credit facility, government policy, all these other factors will remain the same, only the price will decrease. When the price decreases, there is increase in the quantity demanded. People will buy more when the price falls. To show that there is movement along the same demand curve, there is no shift in the demand curve. Similarly, contract, decrease in quantity demanded. Decrease in quantity demanded takes place when there is an increase in the price. Because when the price increases, then only there is a decrease in the quantity demanded. So, when the price increases, all the other factors remaining constant, ceteris paribus, that is, income will not change, price of related good will not change, etc. When it is same, but the price is increasing, then there is a decrease in the quantity demanded. When there is a decrease in the quantity demanded, there is movement along the same demand curve. Now, if there is a question where they ask you, what do you mean by movement along the same demand curve? Or if they ask you, differentiate between extension of demand and contraction of demand in your question paper, which generally is for 3 marks choice question, this is how we answer. Let's have a look. So let's have a look of how you can answer this question, which is for 3 marks in the board paper. Movement of demand curve, you have extension and contraction. The first step you will write is about the price. When the price falls, all the other factors remaining constant, there is increase in the quantity demanded. Here, contraction, just the opposite. The price will increase, factors will remain constant. Since the price is increasing, there is a decrease in the quantity demanded. This is your first step. Generally, you get half marks here, etc. The next thing here you can see is the diagram. So you plot your x-axis and y-axis, price on the y-axis and quantity demanded on the x-axis. Your price is here, P, and your quantity demanded is Q. There is a fall in the price. So make your price fall, P1. When it falls, where does it meet? At B. Drop this line here and you have Q1. You can see when the price falls, there is increase in the quantity demanded. You must show your arrows. So when the price falls, there is increase in the quantity demanded. We are shifting from point A to point B, we shift. Remember, the demand curve has not shifted. It is movement along the same demand curve. Whereas here in this graph, price increases, price rises, increases. We were here at A and Q is the quantity demanded, price increase. At this point, you have quantity demanded decreasing. So when the price increases, the quantity demanded will decrease. After you write this line, this is the second one, is the diagram. The third one, you will write there is movement along the same demand curve from point A to point B. Here, movement along the same demand curve from point A to point C. So here there is a movement along the same demand curve. So that was movement. Notice that in movement there is a change in the price, but the other factors remaining constant. That is movement. Whereas when I do shift, in shift what happens is the whole demand curve will shift. Whole demand curve will shift. Price will be constant and factors will change. Factors will change. Price will remain constant when you do shift. Let's have a look. We come to shift. If you look at shift, you can see there's increase in demand and decrease in demand. Increase in demand, decrease in demand. The first thing you will notice is price will remain same. There is no change in the price, but other factors can change. Decrease also in demand, price same. There is no change in the price of the good, but other factors will change. Let's take an example of increase in demand. If you look at increase in demand, demand will increase not because the price will change. Price is same, but other factors change. What are the other factors? So many factors. One of them is income. When your income increases, price is same, your income, other factors are changing, income is increasing. When income increases, what happens? There is increase in demand. Another factor would be price of substitute good will increase. Let's take an example. Let's say you are drinking tea and your substitute good is coffee. The price of the substitute good coffee rises. Price of substitute good will increase. Coffee will be comparatively or relatively more costlier. So what happens? People will switch from coffee to tea. When they switch over from coffee to tea, people will drink more tea, means demand for tea will increase. Similarly, you could take a case of price of complementary goods. In price of complementary goods, you take petrol and petrol cars. Now, if you want to increase the demand for petrol cars, then what should happen to the price of petrol? Price of petrol should decrease. So, here you could also add price of complementary good should decrease. Example, price of petrol decreases, there is increase in demand for petrol cars. Other examples are, if, for example, the consumer credit facility is better, easy loan, low EMIs, long duration of payment, very less down payment, the rate of interest for the bank loan is very less, it is favorable. When it is favorable, then there is increase in demand. At present times, the house loans rate of interest has decreased to almost 8.25%. So when the rate of interest decreases, what happens? There should be increase in demand. Whereas in this case, there has to be decrease in demand. How can there be decrease in demand? Price is same, but your income has decreased. When your income decreases, obviously there will be a decrease in demand. Another example, price of substitute good decreases. If the price of coffee, which is the substitute good, falls, then people will switch over from tea to coffee. What will happen to the demand for your good tea? It will decrease because people will start drinking the substitute good coffee. And finally, increase in demand, the whole demand curve shifts. Where will it shift? Upwards and rightwards. Upwards, rightwards. Upwards, rightwards. Whereas decrease in demand, the whole demand curve will shift downwards and leftwards. Now let's understand with the help of a diagram. So shift. The whole demand curve will shift. So we have two cases here. Increase in demand and decrease in demand. In shift, price will remain constant. No change in the price. Price constant, no change. Then what will change? Other factors will change. What are the other factors that will change? For example, you can take income of the consumer will increase. You can say price of the substitute good will increase. We can take price of the complementary good like petrol will decrease. Because of these other factors changing, price is same. What will happen to the demand? There is increase in demand. Similarly, decrease in demand. Price constant, no change in the price. So how does the demand decrease? Because of other factors which will change. Example, you can take income decreases. When income decreases, demand will decrease. Other examples, the price of substitute good like coffee will decrease. Or if you take another example, price of complementary goods like petrol, price of petrol will increase, leading to decrease in demand. First step. Now the diagram. So we have a diagram where for this also same, you have x-axis, origin, y-axis, origin, x-axis. You have your price, you have your quantity demanded, you have your quantity demanded or simply demand. This is your demand curve DD, and also here this is your demand curve DD. All the time till now it is the same. Price, quantity Q, quantity Q. Now we will start with this. There has to be increase in demand. Price should remain constant. The price will not shift. The price is same. But because the price is same, your quantity demanded should increase. If you want the price same and the quantity demanded to increase, then we are somewhere here. So the demand curve has to shift. D1, D1. Arrow, arrow, and here arrow. So price is same, but there is increase in the demand. What happens? The whole demand curve shifts upwards, rightwards. So you have this upwards, rightwards shifting. Whereas in this case, there is decrease in demand. Decrease in demand, price is same, but you have to have decrease in demand. This demand should decrease. So somewhere here, Q1, decrease in demand. So you are here. So the demand curve will be here. D1, D1. The demand curve has shifted downwards and leftwards. So price is same. The whole demand curve shifts downwards and leftwards. There is decrease in demand. And finally, you have to state that the whole, number 3, the whole demand curve shifts. Shifts which side? Shifts upwards, upwards and rightwards. Upwards and rightwards. Whereas here, the whole demand curve shifts from DD to D1, D1. From DD to D1, D1, where shifts downwards and leftwards. So this is what is shift in the demand. Notice shift in the demand takes place when there is a change in the other factors. Price will remain constant. We'll discuss a few examples on this because simple questions based on movement and shift takes place. So I'm going to tell you some questions randomly and I'm going to answer it for you. thing I'll discuss is the price, okay? Let's take an example. Let us say the price of the mobile phone increases. Price increases. All the other factors are constant. Your income is same, price of other related goods are same, everything is same. Factors remain constant, price increases. Now what happens? Tell me. When the price increase is movement along the same demand curve. If the price increases, what happens to the quantity demanded? It will decrease. So what is it actually? It is extension in demand. Let's have a look what we are saying. When the price increases, other factors are remaining constant. Other factors are remaining constant. So when the price increases, obviously there is decrease in the quantity demanded. Decrease in the quantity demanded means when the price increases, there is a decrease in the quantity demanded. Decrease in quantity demanded will be contraction. Another example. Let us say the price of tea decreases. Price of tea decreases. Price of tea, your good commodity is tea, it decreases. Other factors like your income, etc. will remain same. If the price decreases for a commodity, what will happen? There is increase in the quantity demanded. Because the price is changing, there is increase and decrease of quantity demanded. Increase in quantity demanded is extension. Extension. Both are movement along the same demand curve. The demand curve will not shift. Now let's take another example. This time price is constant. No change in the price. But because your salary has increased or your income from business has increased, there is increase in your income. Price constant, but other factors change. Like income has increased. When your income increases, what happens to your demand? There is increase in demand. Not increase in quantity demanded. Increase in demand takes place. And increase in demand is known as increase in demand. So when there is increase in demand, it comes under increase in demand. Let's take another case. Let's make it a little bit tricky. We'll say, let's say complementary goods. We go to complementary goods. Price is constant. The price of that good is same. Price of petrol car is same. There is no change in the price in the market. Auto sector, same price. The price hasn't been reduced. But let us say, we'll take diesel this time. Imagine the price of diesel has, we'll say, increase. So diesel price has increased. The price of diesel in the market has increased. When there is increase in the price of the complementary good, that is diesel, what will happen to diesel cars? The demand for diesel car will decrease in demand. So the whole demand curve will shift. Now, where will it shift? If the price is constant, your income has increased, there is increase in the demand. When there is increase in the demand curve will shift upwards, rightwards. Upwards, rightwards. Whereas, when the price is constant, the diesel price have increased, the demand for diesel cars have decreased. Where will the demand curve shift? It will shift downwards and leftwards. So these are some examples to explain how movement and shift of the demand curve takes place. Next, now that we have finished topic on these, I'd like to go further and explain a new topic, elasticity of demand. I will just give you a gist of what it is so that in the next class I can explain to you in detail. Elasticity of demand. Now elasticity, something like elastic, how much will it stretch? How much will it stretch? Which means to say that there are different types of elasticity of demand: cross elasticity of demand, income elasticity of demand, and price elasticity of demand. But we will first do only price elasticity of demand, because cross and income elastic demand details are not part of your syllabus of class 10. We will do price elasticity of demand. Here you will see how much the demand will change when there is a change in the price. Sometimes what happens is the price of a good shoots up. Let's say insulin for diabetic people. The price of insulin shoots up. Very expensive. Prices go up. What will happen to the demand? The demand may not change. There is no change in the demand even if the price of insulin for diabetic people increases. Whereas there are goods like luxury goods, LED TV, smartphones. If the price of smartphone increases drastically, then there will be the demand. What will happen to demand? It will decrease drastically. So how much will the demand change? Will the demand change or not? How much it will change, we discussed with elasticity of demand. In elasticity of demand, you will see the definition. It is the degree of responsiveness. Degree of responsiveness means how much degree of responsive means how much of quantity demanded of a commodity will change in response to the price. That means if the price changes, how much will the quantity demand change? Sometimes, as I told you, insulin prices go up, but the quantity demanded won't change. But if you take luxury goods, for example, LED TV, if the price of LED TV drops by just 10%, the quantity demanded might increase by 30%. So luxury goods are very elastic, very sensitive. It responds to the quantity demanded. Whereas there are goods like salt. Okay, it's a necessity good. So necessity goods, what happens is, if the price of salt decreases by almost 50%, price is less by 50%, the quantity demanded won't increase by 50%. It may increase by 5%. So the quantity demanded will not change much on necessity goods, which means to say that there are goods where even if the price changes drastically, the demand will not change much. Example, necessity goods. Example, insulin used by diabetic people. Whereas there are goods like luxury goods where small change in the price leads to a huge change in the demand. So now you've got a picture what is price elasticity of demand. There are different types of price elasticity of demand. You have perfectly inelastic, unitary, elastic, and perfectly elastic. So once you know what is price elasticity of demand, I can explain to you in detail of what it is. So this is an introduction for the next class. I will be teaching you in detail price elasticity of demand in my next class. And further, after this, we will learn how to calculate price elasticity of demand by different methods. So this is all for today, and I'll be back with price elasticity of demand. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching the show. See you in the next class. Thank you.
Children, and welcome to ICSE History online video lectures. In my last lecture, I spoke about the formation of Muslim League in 1906, where we looked at the factors which promoted the rise of communalism between the Hindus and the Muslims. While explaining the meaning of communalism, this feeling of hatred between the communities of Hindus and the Muslims, we also looked at the various factors or the causes behind this feeling. And one of the instrumental causes was the divide and rule policy which was being played by the British. And then we looked at the various other factors, like, for example, how the backwardness of the Muslim was another reason. The Aligarh politics was another reason. Role of Syed Emmet Khan was a very, very big reason for the spread of communalism between the two communities. Today, in the second half of this particular session, we are going to learn about the events that led to the formation of an all India Muslim political organization in 1906 known as the Muslim League. Events meaning what all happened. Last time we just discussed the factors that led to this ill feeling. Today we will look at these various events, all right, which led to the formation of this organization. So let us begin today's lecture with the events leading to the formation of Muslim League, which was ultimately established in 1906. I have just given the events here. We will start with Hindi-Urdu controversy. Then I will move to the Aligarh movement. Then I will come to the Partition of Bengal. And last but not the least, I will explain to you the Shimla Deputation. The events leading to Muslim League comes as a long question in ICSE for 10 marks. So let's start by the first event, that is the Hindi-Urdu controversy. Whenever you look at this first event, please try to analyze the two words written on the slide here. Hindi, Urdu. What does it strike? Hindi and Urdu. Here we are referring to two languages, right? So Hindi and Urdu, naturally, it should strike to you. We are talking about languages. But what about languages? It's written clearly here, controversy. A discussion, something that came up, that sparked off between the two languages, Hindi and Urdu. So what happened? Why was there a controversy between the languages? The story goes that in the United Province, now in those days, today we have 28 states in India, you know that. Jammu and Kashmir was once a state, but now it has been reduced to a union territory. Now what happened is that during those days, we had various provinces. And those provinces were very huge. While explaining the Partition of Bengal chapter, we have already seen one of the factors for the Partition of Bengal was its size. The size was too big. So here we are referring to another province which is known as the United Province, which today falls in Uttar Pradesh. Now, this United Province had a majority of Muslims. So it was a Muslim-dominated province. Naturally, where you are going to have Muslim-dominated population, the language that was used popularly was Urdu. Urdu was the most common form of language that was used for communication, as well as it was a court language. C-O-U-R-T, court language, meaning the official language of United Province was Urdu. So if you had to write petitions, if you had to submit memorandums, if you have to write applications, etc., if you know it in English, well and good, but the most used language, right, commonly used language to submit these petitions was Urdu. Reason is because it was a Muslim-dominated area. But we do not have any area with just one single community. India is always known to have multicultural communities living together. So the problem, now what was the controversy? Naturally, those who knew Urdu, how to read and write in Urdu, would use this as, a medium of submitting their petitions, etc. The language was used. But what about Hindus? There might have been Punjabis there. There might have been Buddhists there. What about these people who do not have a hang of the language called Urdu? So therefore, in 1900, you can look at the year here, in 1900, a controversy which sparked over the use of Devanagari script in United Province. So most of the Hindus over there, they also wanted a solution to this problem of not having to submit the petition in Urdu. So they asked that time the Lieutenant Governor, MacDonald was there, and they submitted a petition to him saying, we are having a problem. So our problem is we do not know how to write in Urdu. So if you could allow us to use the Devanagari script, which will be easier and convenient for us. So this was a very, very valid problem, a valid issue. Somebody who does not know how to write in Urdu. That is why in 1900 there was a kind of, you can say, an issue, or you can say an order directed from the government, where from now on even Devanagari would be used as a court language. What was the effect of this? What happened after this verdict or the court order was issued? The Muslims resented the government order. Remember, United Province is a Muslim-dominated area. Here, they did not want the use of any other language. And they were very angry with the British for helping out the Hindus. So they resented, they protested against the government order. But what was the reaction of the Hindus? The Hindus welcomed the government order, sparking controversy. The Hindus were very happy. They in fact thanked the governor, lieutenant governor, for giving such a kind of order, for issuing this kind of verdict. They were very happy. But the feeling that got into the minds of the Muslim was that yes, this is Hindustan, all right? India was known as Hindustan at that point of time. If you break the two words Hindustan, you will get the word Hindu and Stan. Hindu meaning the community Hindu, Stan meaning a place, meaning this will always be a place of the Hindus. No matter whether you are talking about United Province, here the fact is that the British will always favor the Hindus and they never favored the Muslims. This was, I think, a very strong reason, all right, a very strong ground where the Muslims felt that we are lacking one thing, and that is a political organization which will address such issues, right? So this is the Hindi-Urdu controversy. Next we go to the Aligarh movement. If you remember, the Aligarh School of Politics, Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College, I think it was formed with a very, very good, you can say, idea of giving or imparting education to the Muslims. It was supposed to be a kind of place where young minds are taught, where they are illuminated, where they are enlightened. But because of some principles like Theodor Beck, who started poisoning these young minds, then it turned into the Aligarh School of Politics. Now, we have to refer, while talking about Aligarh movement, we have to refer Syed Emmet Khan, because if you can look at the year here, in 1898, Syed Emmet Khan passed away. His contribution towards the spread of communalism can never be forgotten. We have looked at his contribution before, whether it involves the United Patriotic Association or Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental Defense Association, or whether it involves the Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental Educational Conferences, etc. The establishment of Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College, he has great contribution towards the Muslims. Now, the man who started the Aligarh movement passed away in 1898. So this responsibility fell into the hands of a Nawab, Nawab meaning a Raja, all right? Nawab, and he was Mohsin ul Mulk of Dhaka. Now, special mention to Dhaka here because by that time, Bengal was already partitioned into West Bengal and East Bengal. West Bengal had its capital as Calcutta, whereas East Bengal had its capital as Dhaka. And Mohsin ul Mulk was the Nawab. The responsibility of leading this Muslim movement had to fall onto the shoulders of a responsible person. So Mohsin ul Mulk, Nawab Mohsin ul Mulk, he took the responsibility of Syed Emmet Khan. Now, MacDonald, the first thing that he did was, Nawab Mohsin ul Mulk was very, very angry with the verdict, the court verdict of Hindi-Urdu controversy. So he started protesting against the British. In fact, he wrote to Lieutenant General MacDonald also, trying to tell him to revoke this particular court order. But MacDonald was also very angry. He also gave an ultimatum to the Nawab. He told the Nawab, either you resign from your post or either you take back this protest. Right? And when this happened, Nawab was asked by MacDonald to stop all the protest. He said this is very legal. The Hindus should be allowed to use Devanagari script. There is nothing like a very biased verdict. We are not favoring the Hindus. Please understand. So the Nawab was asked to stop the protest. He is a Nawab. Right? He is not an ordinary man. And the British is ordering the Nawab to stop the protest. Again, what did the Muslims make out of this? They thought that, yes, again, the British will always favor the Hindus and never the Muslims. Members of the Aligarh movement now decided to form a political organization. The Muslims had everything. They had support, they had the public, they had the objectives, they had the programs, they had very good leadership. But what was missing was organization. To start any movement, you require at least 4 to 5 things. If tomorrow you want to bring changes, if tomorrow you want to start a movement, any social movement, the first thing you require is ideology. It has to be based on some ideology. Second, you require objective. Why the movement? Third, you require a very good leadership. This is the most important part. Fourth, you require programs. And at the end, the fifth, you require an organization. An organization has to be there. And if you look at the Muslims, they had ideology, they had objectives, they had leadership, they had programs. What was missing is an organization. So they felt that the need of the hour, what they require right now is a very strong Muslim political organization. Now let's go to the next one. That is the Partition of Bengal. Let us see how the Partition of Bengal also helped in the formation of the Muslim League. While I was explaining the Partition of Bengal in my previous sessions, you must have been quite surprised at the way the Indians behaved, or more so the Bengalis behaved during the Partition of Bengal. Tying Rakhi around each other's wrists and then singing Vande Mataram out on the streets, burning of foreign goods, Hindus and Muslims showing signs of brotherhood, not wanting to part with each other. Didn't we all go through that? And one thing we realized was, yes, we can have a horrible enemy. We can have a person like Lord Curzon trying to split us up. But we were united by heart. We were united throughout, and then we fought with this Partition of Bengal. But this feeling of unity later on fizzled out. It faded. It disappeared. Why? In the later stages of the anti-partition movement, the Muslims supported the partition. Now, the British started poisoning the minds of the Muslims, saying, if we do not partition Bengal, then you Muslims will have to stay as a minority in Bengal. All the best jobs will go into the hands of the Bengali Muslims, Bengali Hindus. All the educational institutions will be run by these Bengali or educated Bengali Hindus. Even the jobs, even business, everything will be dominated by the Bengali Hindus. Whereas you Muslims are backward, you Muslims are illiterate, you all are very rigid and socially very, very orthodox, so you will have a problem. Think about it. If we partition and tomorrow you have East Bengal, East Bengal will be exclusively for the Muslims. Muslims will get jobs. Muslim universities and schools and colleges will open up. Muslims will have control over the business and economy of East Bengal. So when this kind of poisoning was done to the minds of the Muslims understood, and then they stopped supporting the anti-partition movement. The government won over the Muslims with promises of reform. I will give you this, I will give you that, you all don't have money, you all don't have schools, you all don't have colleges, demand. You have to ask us, request us, appeal to us. We will fulfill each and every demand of the Muslims. So what else will the Muslim want if such an assurance is being given by the British? East Bengal would be Muslim dominated. It was very, very clear. This is a Muslim dominated area. You will not stay as a second class citizen here, and would give them control over even political and social affairs. Nawab Salimullah of Dhaka and other upper class Muslims now supported the idea of a political organization. And Nawab Salimullah of Dhaka later on, again, he also felt that yes, the British are right. They're very, very correct. This is a very, very good idea. We have to have a political organization. We must support the partition of Bengal. We must have East Bengal as a Muslim-dominated province, and therefore they stopped supporting the anti-partition movement. Next is the Shimla Deputation. So everything was ready now, all right? In Aligarh school, we have all the children who are ready for a political organization. The Muslims are demanding for an organization of their own. We have the Nawabs all coming together. Now what happened is that in 1906, a Muslim deputation under Aga Khan met Viceroy Lord Minto. There's a very long story behind the Shimla Deputation of 1906. Shimla was a summer capital for the British, right? And there was a beautiful, till today we have this beautiful Viceroy's bungalow. You all can check it up in the net also. It's a beautiful bungalow. It is a Viceroy's bungalow used by the British officers at that point of time. So the Muslims were now, right, ready to form an organization, but they didn't know how to go about it. They had the demands, they also wanted to submit memorandums, but they didn't know how to go about. They did not have a roadmap on how to go about all this. For this, they were assisted by Archibald, who was the new principal of the Aligarh College. So what happened is that Archibald, he gave an assurance, don't worry, I will fix an appointment, because it's not easy tomorrow. You just cannot walk up and say, I want to meet the Prime Minister. Prior appointments have to be made. And then you are not going to have hours and hours of meeting over there. So you have to submit everything in the form of a memorandum. So Archibald fixed up the meeting. A handful of the Muslim leaders led by Aga Khan went all the way to Shimla, and they met the Viceroy at that time, who was Lord Minto. Now, when they met the Viceroy, they submitted several demands, naturally. And Viceroy Minto was also very happy. He also welcomed the delegation. He assured them that, yes, he would go through all the demands. And some of the demands that the Muslim had asked were the system of separate electorates to be introduced, more employment for the Muslims, the political rights of the Muslims to be saved. They also asked for the establishment of universities, especially for the Muslims. These were some of the demands. So they had a nice meeting, and after that, the parting was also very, very good. Lord Minto assured them that, yes, I'm going to fulfill all the demands. This entire deputation, it took place on October 1906. After all this, what happened was immediately October, the Shimla Deputation, 1906, November, December. In a matter of 2 months, very quick, all right? In a matter of 2 months, the political organization was formed. Now, where and when was this organization formed? The Shimla Deputation encouraged the Muslims. It filled them with vigor and energy. Such a nice feedback coming from the British. Very good assurance, positive vibes coming from the British towards the Muslims. They were so happy. Overnight, their feeling towards the British again changed to establish a permanent political organization. Therefore, in December, I've given you the timeline. October, they were in Shimla. December, they all were supposed to meet at Dhaka for a conference. Now, what was that conference? The Muslim leaders had to in connection to Mohammedan Educational Conference. Remember, the Mohammedan Education Conference was established by Syed Emmet Khan. Every year, the conference was supposed to be held in different parts of India. In 1906, it was time for this conference to be held at Dhaka. So, under the pretext of an educational conference, they were supposed to meet. All these Muslim leaders, they gathered at Dhaka. Why Dhaka? Educational conference. But what was the outcome of the educational conference? It was very surprising that this conference was presided by Nawab Salimullah, and from the same conference, the organization was born with the name All India Muslim League, which was founded on the 30th, that is the second last day of the year, the 30th of December 1906. So you went for an educational conference, but you came back with a political organization called the All India Muslim League, formed on the 30th of December 1906. In ICSE, you do get questions like objective questions. Who presided over the first meeting of the Muslim League? So your answer will be Nawab Salimullah of Dhaka. They will ask you the year in which the Muslim League was formed. So the year is also given here. Now that the organization is formed, let us look at the objectives of the organization. We know why it was formed, but yet let us go through the objectives. First is to protect and advance the political rights of the Muslims of India. Here we are not talking about the Muslims all over the world. Here it is going to be India-centric Muslims. We are talking about the Indian Muslims. And the first thing that this organization is going to do is it will protect and advance. It is the Muslims. They did not have many candidates during elections also. We are not getting, the voting rights. Whatever issues that they had, whatever problems that they had, will now be taken up by the Muslim League. So tomorrow, if a Muslim person has a problem, he will not go to Indian National Congress. Now he has an organization of his own, so he will direct it to the Muslim League. Next is very interesting, to prevent the rise among Muslims any kind of hostility towards any other community. Very clear cut. They are telling the other community, we are not here to fight with you. We are not here to be communal. We are not here to spread this ill feeling and hatred. All right? We are here only for the Muslims. It is of the Muslims, by the Muslims, for the Muslims. And here we have not formed this organization to counter any communal feelings with the other groups. Next is to promote among the Muslims feeling of loyalty towards the British. This is even more interesting. Why we have formed is because we want to be loyal towards the British. This is almost the same objective that the moderates or the early nationalists had at one point of time. We believe in the British. The British are very just people. The British, they have great sense of justice. So that is why we want to promote loyalty. So if I don't promote loyalty, what happens if I don't promote loyalty? Then I cannot protect the political rights of my brothers here in India. So if I have this, this will also come naturally. Now, the league was formed, objectives are clear. Now you have INC also. That is, INC was the first All India political organization to be formed. Muslim League also came. Many other organizations were there, like the Hindu Mahasabha was there, all right? Now, what was the impact of the league? What happened later on? It was the only organization of the Muslims of India, naturally. Next, it created a ridge. But when this organization came, Even though the Muslims did not want this ill feeling to exist, however, it was a natural process, very organic one. We did have an ill feeling between the Hindus and the Muslims. The British passed. Now you have given an assurance. Do you remember the Shimla Deputation? Do you remember Lord Minto? Do you remember the positive vibe? So Lord Minto had to keep his promise. If it doesn't do this, then it will be very shameful. Just to keep his promise towards the Muslims, in 1909, the Indian Councils Act of 1909, also known as Minto-Morley Reform. Lord Minto is the Viceroy, Lord Morley is the Secretary of State. With these two names, we have Minto-Morley Reform was passed. And I will just discuss the most important provision of the Minto-Morley Reform was that the demand of separate electorate, whatever the Muslims had asked, was granted by the British. So Lord Minto was almost like that genie. He just granted the wish of the Muslims. System of separate electorate, meaning where the Hindus will vote for the Hindus and Muslims will vote for the Muslims. Next, deposition. But later on, in 1906 and later on, what happened is that during the First World War, all right, which started in 1914, at that point of time, Turkey. Let me just explain to you a little bit, and then this is the last bit. Turkey shook hands with Britain, all right, and then they were fighting together. So when Turkey shook hands with Germany. Let me correct you. Turkey shook hands with Germany and was fighting against the Axis powers, which were like Britain. When this happened, then the British soldiers, they entered Turkey, they deposed the Sultan of Turkey, took over his palace, took over his properties, etc. The news traveled to India about what had happened to the Sultan of Turkey, who happened to be the Caliph or the Khalifa of the Muslims, a religious. He was not only a political leader, but also a religious leader of the Muslims all over the world. The Muslims in India were also very, very angry. They heard the news, what had happened, what the British had done to the Turkish Sultan, because of which they started the Khilafat movement here in India. Anyway, this we will do when we will discuss the First World War. But later, all this, when you are studying all this, you might have realized, oh, this is the British divide and rule policy. Now, what must have happened to the unity between Hindus and Muslims? Let's not go very far away to Turkey. Let's come back to India. In 1916, a historic pact was signed, an agreement was signed between the Hindus and Muslims, which is called the Lucknow Pact. And the reason why it is historic is, do you remember where I showed last time in the Partition of Bengal chapter, 1905, 1906 and 1907 was a year of breakup. Back to back, one after the other. 1905, in a circle I had drawn and I had shown you that East Bengal and West Bengal was created. 1906, we had INC and Muslim League that was created. 1907, within the Congress also, the moderates and the extremists, they split up. So 5, 6, 7 was a year of breakup. But 1916 was a year of makeup. Here everybody came together. There were certain factors, we'll discuss it in the next chapter. And what happened and why is it historic is because here in 1916, not only the Hindus and Muslims came together, not only the Congress and the Muslim League came together, but from now on, the Hindus and Muslims would have a joint demand. Again, I'm repeating, a joint demand. Now we will not have Hindus with one demand and Muslims with one demand and Buddhists with one demand. Now every community would have just one point agenda, one point demand, and this is the reason why Lucknow Pact is very, very historic. Then a last point I would like to mention, in 1911, the partition of Bengal was also revoked. So this became a very easy way. Because it was revoked, it was easy for the Muslims to come and sign the Lucknow Pact. So with this, I end today's lecture. I hope you have understood. I hope you will benefit from the lectures on Muslim League. In my next class, maybe I will be talking to you about the impact of the First World War on Indian politics. Till then, thank you very much for watching my video.